CQ RAYNET, CQ RAYNET. This is Golf 4, November Romeo Charlie, operated today by Greg, Golf Sierra Delta Uniform Bravo, serving as net control for the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net. This net meets each Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time and is open to all amateur radio operators interested in emergency communications. The primary purpose of the net is to provide the opportunity for members to test equipment, exchange traffic news, opinions and information, and additional information can be found on the RAYNET UK website at www.raynet-uk.net. This is a directed net, which means all calls are to be made to the net control station unless you're instructed otherwise, and all RAYNET UK operators are invited and encouraged to check into the net. When you do check in, please announce your call sign slowly and phonetically, followed by your name, and if you wish to leave the net immediately, then please call in and out. Otherwise, if you want to leave at a subsequent turns, then make it clear you want to check out at that time. After I've heard a few check-ins, I'll repeat what I've heard, and if your check-in's not acknowledged, then please try again, or if you miss your turn, I will be calling for any strays at the end of the UK and international sections. So I'll now begin taking check-ins for the RAYNET UK weekly activity net, as usual in call sign number order. So any stations with figure 8 in their call wishing to check into the net, please call now. This is G4 and RC.
G4 and RC, G8 KLC, very good afternoon, Greg. In and out please, but I'll try and have it on in the background.
Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee, G8 EY, name is Mike.
This is G4 and RC. Good afternoon, Phil. Golf 8 Kilo Lima Charlie, who's in and out, and Mike, Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee, staying with me. Any other 8s, please? G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, nothing heard, so it's 7s. Stations with figure 7 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 and RC, over.
G798, Golf 7 November Echo Hotel.
Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Good afternoon, Greg.
G4 and RC, so I've got 2 7s from West Cheshire, Golf 7 November Echo Hotel, good afternoon Graham, and Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, good afternoon again Dave, after an attempt on the HF that earlier. Any other 7s please, G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, nothing heard, so it's 6s. Stations figure 6 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 and RC, over. For an RC, second call for any stations figure 6 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, any stations figure 5 in that call sign, please. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, we don't have many 5s, so we'll go straight for the 4s. Stations figure 4 in that call sign, please. G4 and RC, over.
G4KL, Phillips House Essex.
G4 and RC, good afternoon Philip, Golf 4 Kilo India Lima. Any other 4s please, G4 and RC, over.
Golf 4 Delta Tango Mike, in and out.
G4 and RC, good afternoon, Pete. Golf 4 Delta Tango Mike, and got you in and out. Nice to hear you again. Okay, out of the 4s into the 3s. Stations figure 3 in that call sign, please. G4 and RC, over.
Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, Ian.
Red 10 lurking, G3VH. G4 and RC, I've got Ian, Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, and Chris, Golf 3 Victor Echo Hotel, both staying with me. Any other 3s, please? G4 and RC, over.
G3VH, I was in and out, Greg, G3VH.
Golf 3 Victor Echo Hotel, also now copied as in and out. Okay, thanks, Chris. Okay, that's 3s. Let's go for 2s. Stations figure 2 in their call sign, please, and that includes the intermediate 2s. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, second call for any stations with 2 in their call sign, figure 2, that includes the intermediate 2s, over. G4 and RC, so it's stations with figure 1 in their call sign, please. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, second call, any stations with figure 1 in their call sign, please. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, no 1s, so let's go for Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please. G4 and RC, over.
M0, JSA, Alan, East Suffolk. Whiskey X-Ray Golf, Shirley, in Cornwall, in and out. Thank you, Greg.
Mike 0, India Tango Mark, Andy, Shirley in Cornwall, also in and out. Thanks, Greg.
G4 and RC, good afternoon, Alan. Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, staying with me. Shirley, Mike 0, Whiskey X-Ray Golf, copied as in and out. And Andy, Mike 0, India Tango Mike, you're also copied in and out. Interestingly, Shirley's signal had 7% packet loss, and yours didn't have any at all. Odd things happening in Cornwall. Any other Mike 0 stations? Any other Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please? G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, then it's Golf 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, second call, any stations with Golf 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, over. G4NRC, no takers. So any UK stations who've missed their turn to call in, please call now. G4NRC, over.
NI0, MSO, Mike, and the 0, Mike, Sierra Oscar, Philip, and Northern Ireland, Greg.
Mike India 0, Mike Sierra Oscar. Good afternoon, Philip. Good to hear you. Staying with me. Right, any international liaison stations, any international liaisons, usually Nødsamband of Norway, Aran in Ireland, Aries in Slovakia, or any other internationals. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, this could be a quick one. Any stations, national or international, who've missed their turn to call in, please call now. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, okay, nothing further heard. Right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm hoping the net is being live streamed by Graham, G7NEH, to YouTube today. He's not taking video from me, although I'm sending it, so maybe that's just an attempt at improving his viewing numbers. But to look at this net, if it's there in any previous ones, search G7NEH, that's Golf 7 November Echo Hotel on YouTube, and click on the Streams tab and you should find his input. Today is the closing day for the membership fees survey, and when I looked earlier on this afternoon, 444 responses have been received at the time of when I looked, which is about a quarter of the membership. I'm analysing the results late tonight with the Committee of Management to consider the next steps ahead of the AGM on the 28th of October. But thanks to everybody who has responded, a 25% response rate makes the results very meaningful indeed. The form was open to anybody to contribute with. You didn't need to log into the RAYNET-UK servers, so that should have been fine. This net marks 2 years of running the net using a shared logging sheet on the internet. We've had a lot of good information shared on the net, but how do you all think this should be captured and made available for others? The reason it's come to mind is that we had a discussion a while ago on preservatives for petrol standing in generators over time, which recently reopened on the HFT mailing list. Totally different audience, same question 6 months later. So how do we get that kind of consistency and sharing of knowledge? For anybody who had anything for national registrations, they reopened after a holiday this week and are working through the backlog of mail received. From an email I got earlier, it's not all gone yet, but presumably prioritised towards those whose memberships may have expired yesterday. And finally, in a rather key question, I didn't get any takers when I asked last week, but the Chester Marathon next Sunday will distract Graham and myself from the DMR net on that date. So there are any volunteers to take net control next week, because it would be appreciated. With that, I'll start at the top of my list and go to Mike, Golf 8, Echo Echo Yankee, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC from G8EY. Good afternoon, Greg. Weather in this part of the world is 21 centigrade, 1019 millibars, 74% relative humidity, 38% cloud cover, and 13-mile-an-hour winds from 237 degrees. So it's not too bad out here. I've been having fun trying to get re-registered on WhatsApp with a brand new mobile phone, as when the last phone sort of threw out a wobbly, apparently I got deregistered. So if anybody's got any clues on that, or do I need to find a 10-year-old from somewhere? I don't really have any answer to the information problem and how to disseminate it or even store it. Unfortunately, the alternative to things in fuel for generators is to go entirely synthetic. But on the grounds it then costs about £25 a gallon, that doesn't really seem a good way to go. I did wonder about this subject when we go entirely no diesel and no petrol vehicles on the road, whether there will indeed be any garages serving this material. I'm just wondering about standby generators that don't run on internal combustion engines. Not quite sure how that would work. From G8EEY.
8 Echo Echo Yankee, G4 and RC. Okay, in kind of reverse order. Yeah, the idea of what fuels standby generators is vexing a few people, especially companies that have bravely said they would go absolutely net zero by 2030 or 2035, with the realisation there's not much with the energy density of dead dinosaurs or the persistence of it to make things work. Right, Graham's trying to bring my video in, and it's obviously trying to crash things again, so resurrection of problem is noted. So people are rowing back a bit and going down that synthetic or otherwise route. So yeah, interesting. And as for no easy answers in storage, there has been a lot of discussion on the HF list about how to store info. So I've got some ideas, maybe something that gets tried there first on a separate server, but I was wanting to see what people said here first. Right, with that, next to Graham, G7NEH, and looks like I should be clearing caches in browsers, Graham, because that seems to be what sets Jitsi up into a failure mode. G7NEH, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC, G7NEH, returning. Yeah, I tried the video as you gathered, but to no avail. We'll have a play after this over. Last week's viewing figures were 22 views and 4 likes, so down a bit on what we've had the previous few weeks. There we go. I will give you this week's viewing figures on my next over. So I'll let else to report from this end. If I am back next week, depending on what time we finish the checkpoint at the event, I will stream the net, but it may not be streamed due to me not being at home. G4 LLC, G7NEH.
G7NEH, G4 and RC. Okay, Graham. Yeah, it was a question I nearly asked as the key question for all. The event next week that Graham and I are on has a cut-off that says 6 hours for completion, which would normally mean that the last runner would cross at 3 p.m, which would be just about okay for Graham to maybe get back, a little bit harder for me to close down control and get everything into the car and get away, get back across town. Hence the need for a standby net or an alternative net controller next week. But the race has a habit of, although it has a cut-off, last year's final finisher was in 6.5 hours, which takes both of us into the twilight zone where we wouldn't be able to cover the net. So we might save that for another question, depending on next weekend's learning with what do we do when organisers don't hold to their cut-off times. Anyway, thanks, Graham, and noted my face drove the views down last week. Next to Dave, Mike 7, Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC, Mike 7, Alpha Victor Oscar. Yeah, good afternoon, Greg. Should I say again? And good afternoon, everyone. And yeah, did give the 40 metres a try on both sets today for the HF, and yeah, to no avail again. So as you said in your message, we need to do some investigating at this end. It's strange how it's just 40 metres that seems to play up, but it's not brilliant using data, sort of FT8 and things like that either. So we should perhaps have a look at that when we get some some time there, Greg. Other than that, this end, not a great deal to add, but it's nice to break out the big radio, shall we say, once in a while, and to try to give it a go, because it's what the hobby's for. The other thing with talking about generators, I know local to us there is a firm that will do a conversion. They're only up in Tattenhall for LPG. So whether that's any good to anybody, you can run off. I would think it would be propane bottle to run generators. It's just an adapter plate that goes between the carburetor and the body itself. Could be something with alternative to fuels. Back to you, Greg. Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar.
Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 and RC returning. Yeah, okay, Dave, for the benefit of others, Dave and I are only about 5 or 6 miles apart at worst, because of wobbly roads. I was able to make 40-metre contacts today. Dave was not, and we're almost on the same kind of end-fed wire antennas. So something really odd happens in his village where 7 makes just doesn't get in and out. But I was minded that the web SDR I run from here was showing some significant signs of overload and desensing the other day. And it turned out to be a switch mode power supply in the house that was just wiping out the entire spectrum. So I could threaten to go and drive around to Dave's place and sit on the drive, but I'll probably take a spectrum scan here and then out in a field and then on Dave's drive to see if there is an elevated noise level that might be affecting things. Generators to LPG, depending on your employer, because this is more of an employment thing, and when employers go away, then we get to Mike's problem of where will we get fuels from anyway. Its LPG still contains too many dead dinosaurs per kilogram to qualify as net zero. So, yeah, it's still going to be fun. I think solar panels will still be taking off even on dark days. Okay, Philip, it's over to you next. G4, KIL, G4 and RC over.
G4 and RC, G4KL, batteries are flat. On the handheld side, I discovered, I'm not sure, so I'll just be quick. You mentioned the AGM, that's the national one, I think you said 28th. I couldn't see any mention of it on the RAYNET News. Where would I find out about that? I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that and let it go around. G4 and RC, G4KL.
G4KIL, G4 and RC. Okay, Philip, you're not alone. Whereas the Committee of Management know when the AGM is, nothing does seem to be put into the calendar. Notices of calling will be going out this week from my recollection of what Cathy was saying, so that might be the first you see of it. But the National AGM is in South Wales at a venue that G8EY will have to find before we get around to him and his turn on the net, so that he can give us the location. But as I recall, we're in the Cardiff area. So that's the National AGM date, 28th of October. Okay, Ian, Golf 3, Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC and the group, good afternoon. This is G3ZHX. I was interested to hear about the use of group log for 2 years, because I was going to make a comment that in the last 2.5 years that I've been participating in this group, the reliability has gone up to the point where I now assume that it will work rather than assuming it won't. So that at least is a plus, I think, down to repeated using of the group. Regarding the group log, I always assumed that was just private between you and Trevor. Is that actually publicly visible anywhere? Because I at least would be interested in the storage of generators. I did raise that question on the RSGB technical website, Reflector a few years ago, and I'm still working through that. And regarding fuel availability, I don't don't know if you remember, but at one time, if you wanted paraffin, you used to go and buy it from a dispensing machine at the garage. And of course, since they've taken those out, you now buy it in cans from your local DIY warehouse. I suspect that petrol may go back to being sold in 5-gallon cans, as it once was. Mine was before you had petrol pumps in villages. You actually had a shop that sold petrol in 5-gallon cans. And I'll leave it there at the moment. I've got one more thought to add, but I'll take it on the next time round. Oh yes, and somebody said the other day, did fossils die in vain? That's relating to the fuel. Okay, I'll pass it back to you now from G3ZHX.
Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray G4 and RC returning. Okay, yeah, that's the longest pain there. You've said in vain, and I typed down the wrong spelling of vain. So that's now haunting me, which answers why the log isn't made live on the screen as Graham's typing things in for the video. So that came out wrong. The log is on a shared website running a service called CryptPad, and there are 2 links available which are given to people who need them at the moment, Ian. One is the person who's doing the logging, usually Trevor, but today it's me doing everything myself today. But if other people do net control, then they get the read and write access to the log. There is a read-only access available, and I might be able to give that to the folder where past logs go. But over 2 years, there is quite a lot of content in there, and it's not really sorted out. So there's still hunting to be done how to make it searchable and accessible. So yeah, it kind of, I'm not going to say defeats the concept, but if I've got the log available online for everybody to read as I'm typing, as they're speaking, and Graham's streaming the net, then we might hit that tipping point where nobody comes on the net at all. Probably not, but we'll see. Right, I think that's answered those questions. Next to Alan, Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, G4 and RC, over.
Yeah, good afternoon, Greg. Good afternoon, everybody. Haven't been on for a while. I hope people have missed me. I've been very busy doing all sorts of other things. But last week I did take the East Suffolk RAYNET mobile control unit to the inaugural Bury St Edmunds rally at Ruffham. And that was quite an enjoyable day. We spoke to quite a few people about RAYNET, and we were there supporting our West Suffolk colleagues, Forest Heath. So that was a good day. But yeah, I've been a bit lazy on the radio and actually being about on a Sunday domestic.
Zero JSA, G4 and RC, you went out in a burst of static, Alan. Try again, over. Zero JSA, G4 and RC, over.
Yeah, I'm still here. The dashboard said I was transmitting. Did you not get that, over?
Zero JSA, G4 and RC, we heard everything about you taking your vehicle to Bury St Edmunds rally, and then went out with massive packet loss just after the word Suffolk, I think. So we missed the latter half of what you said, over.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening because I've obviously not been using it much, but we've been using the hotspots for our Tuesday evening group net on DMR, and I was having trouble with that last week. Seemingly
JSA, G4NRC, you went out with 9% packet loss that time, over. 0JSA, G4NRC, wondering if you stopped talking to copy that we've lost you after 19 seconds with 9% packet loss, over.
Yes, I'll restart the hotspot and see if that cures the problems. I'll be back later. Carry on with the net and call me anytime round. Sorry, Greg.
G4NRC, it's not a problem. Happy rebooting. I think it's just Ian I'm looking at with who said the reliability's gone up over the last 2.5 years. That's almost as bad as using the Q word in a thing. Valid point though, I got a warning message from the server that my duplex hotspot was not playing nicely and maybe I was having SD card issues. So suggestion is always to reboot it first and let the SD card sort itself out, which is what I've done for today. But Amazon brought me 2 more SD cards today, so I will probably have a fresh one ready and retire the one that's in the hotspot back to more less onerous service. All right, Philip, you're last on the turns. Mike India 0, Mike Sierra Oscar, G4NRC.
Good afternoon, Greg, and everybody else in my net. I haven't actually much to add, Greg. I'm just looking, as I do every week, at the difference on the my hotspot, the Brandmeister dashboard, and our repeater that's linked to Brandmeister. Slight difference in the loss in that last station, showing slightly higher on my hotspot than it was through the repeater linked to the dashboard. So interesting stuff, but unfortunately every time they retransmit it clears the history, so there was no loss in his last transmission before he said he was going to reboot the hotspot. All interesting, but nothing to add on what has been spoken about so far. Maybe the next round. Over.
Year 0, Mike Sierra Oscar, G4NRC. Okay, that's fine. So I'm to talk and type at the same time. We had observed, because people remembered last week, Philip was reporting different loss figures. His connection is generally through the Irish Brandmeister server, run by John, Echo India 7 India Golf, who's the former ARAN coordinator south of the island. So his loss figures are much less because the Irish server gets a lot less traffic, I think, than the UK one. But we did make a point of having to switch ourselves to the UK one to stay within country, as it were. Okay, right. Once more around the net then. I'm still enjoying the fact that it's basketball tonight, but I'm not in quite as much of a rush. Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee. Back to you if you can put any elaboration on the AGM venue, Mike, from G4NRC, over.
G4NRC from G8EY. Well, I can tell you that the AGM is definitely in Penarth, which is not that far away from Cardiff, and I've lost the information on the exact location. Doesn't seem to want to tell me, my computer. Oh dear. Oh well, I'll continue looking. If I find it before the end of the night, I'll give you a shout. From G8EEY.
Fate Echo Echo Yankee, G4NRC. No, that's okay. Improving the resolution of location to Penarth rather than just be saying it's South Wales or Cardiff at least reduces it to a little bit less of planet Earth. But it's my bad, I just can never remember the location, and it was only earlier on this afternoon I was asking M0 LSA what we were actually going to do about it. So she's as in the dark on the location as most other people are, but I knew it was there, and now we've got to try and find a campsite to go to. So I needed to know as well. Okay, it is a sports or social club somewhere in the vicinity of Penarth, but the full details will be out when we get the AGM notice of calling out, which I'm sure Kathy said was aiming to be this weekish. Right, thanks Mike. Graham, G7NEH, how bad's the views going? G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC, G7NEH. Okay, so our viewing figures this week are 8 views in total, and concurrently we have 5 people viewing the stream. Not much activity in the chat box this week, and there we go. That's it really. Not a lot else to add from this end. What I was thinking, if we are delayed next week, and it'll be sort of an on-the-fly decision, I will take some kit with me, obviously, to access the DMR net, and I may do a live stream from the location, so something a bit different. Obviously, we won't have the dashboards in view, but I'll think of something that we can do if that arises. So it's more we'll play it by ear next week, but some way the net hopefully will be streamed. G4 and RC, G7NEH.
NEH, G4 and RC returning. Okay, thanks Graham. Oh, that's a point. Did you find that YouTube app that I mentioned as well for doing editing? You can drop me that on the WhatsApp. Yeah, on the fly decisions, one thing you might have to bear in mind is unless we have a really, really, really slow runner, the likelihood of you being still on the event location by 4 o'clock will be really low, because Lisa won't necessarily want to be hanging around after doing a day out there on that spot. So yeah, on the fly, but first of all we need a net controller. Okay, thanks Graham, thanks for doing the streaming. Next to Dave, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Yeah, not a great deal to add this game, Greg. Thanks for taking the net. And yeah, with the 40 metres, whenever you're free, give us a shout. And as you say, we'll get our heads together and we'll try and sort it out once and for all. Let's see what happens. Back to you, Greg. Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar.
Try again, that wasn't making it through the bridge. Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 and RC. Okay, thanks Dave. Yes, I'll have to fingerprint the areas and just see what it is different spectrally in your area than it is around here. Because one band loss is weird. Appreciating you're not on the event next week, but hoping to, no confirmation yet, but hoping to have APRS running on UHF from M1DDN. So I'll try and set something up here to igate him or locally, but if you've got anything available, it might also be appreciated just to give APRS cover around the course, even though you can't be there yourself. Right, to see if his batteries are sorted out. Golf 4 Kilo India Lima, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC, G4K. Well, I'm just running with the handheld plugged into the charger. It's flashing it's green light. Don't know what that means. I'll keep it short. Thanks for the info on the AGM, and I'll watch out for the calling notice there. And I'll say them to freeze now. I won't say any more because I don't know whether this radio is going to handle running on the charger like this. So hopefully speak to you well next week if you are around, or otherwise the week after, whatever. G4NRC, G4KL.
AIL, G4 and RC. Okay, yeah, made it through the bridge. Right, no problem. Yeah, I should look harder at the handheld radio chargers and see what they're capable of doing. I mean, your high current demand should be fed from the battery if the charger itself can't deliver the full demand. It just depends on what your overall state of charge is. Whether or not you are depleting it faster than the buckets are being filled up. So, yeah, I'll admit it's something I have done in the past, but I should really look at what I'm doing before I do it. Okay, 1, 2, 3 left to speak on the net. The next one is Ian, Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC in the group, G3ZHX. I stand by what I said about the system being more reliable. The fact that you had to hang up and restart to get it through the bridge is probably part of the equation. But I do remember in the past having to chase this group between Brandmeister and I'm not sure, I didn't think I chased it onto Pheonix and the RAYNET server. Anyway, that's by the by. Yeah, the one thing I was going to mention is cut-off times, event cut-off times. I remember on one occasion chasing around the Chiltern Hills at 4 in the morning because somebody had actually come back from the run and their piece of paper had got lost. They eventually found them in the logging after we'd been sent out to look for them. So you can't always rely on cut-off times. That just indicates when you might get called to start searching. So best of luck next weekend. Let's hope that doesn't happen to you. So with that, I'll say thank you, Greg and Graham, and I will be around next week if the net happens. This is G3ZHX going back to standby.
Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4 and RC. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's tongue-in-cheek about the reliability, but I did think a few weeks ago we did have a run a year or so into the activity on net really picking up, where the discovery that SD cards do get worn out in hotspots started to hit a lot of us at the same time. And I did think it's been a while since I've seen a flurry of failing SD cards, but maybe that is what's getting Alan or not, I'm not sure. True, good point about when everybody should be home and then not, then that's the time to search. Slightly harder to lose people off a marathon, certainly in the urban environment that they're in by the time we get towards that cut-off time. It's more the fun we have with organisers who say we aren't protecting them anymore, they're beyond the cut-off time, but you do feel like there's a bit of a duty of care if there's a RAYNET operator stuck with the tail ender to actually chase them through and make sure that they do get home correctly. So it's a challenge that just has to be managed. If we don't have a net next week because I can't get another controller, then I will put something in the news on Friday. It's the kind of decision that will have to be taken by Thursday night, 20 at the latest, so I can get it in the Friday news. Okay, thanks, Ian. See you soon. Next, it's Alan. Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, G4 and RC, over.
Well, with a fair wind, I'm back. It remains to be seen if I start. I've done an update check on the PoStar, and it's all up to date. So I didn't need any updates. Rebooted it. It took a while to come back. I struggled to connect again to this net, so I could actually hear what was going on. Well, I'm connected now. Appears to be 23 seconds. I had to go on the DMR server and make the 52351 static again. And that seems to be happy, I think, for static. I've got 37 seconds so far. I'm watching the dashboards. I'll be happy to do the net for you next week if I can get a reliable connection on this hotspot by then. And I think I am doing something on the Sunday, but I should be back by 4 o'clock. So let me have a play with this during the week, and I'll get back to you by email, Greg. M0JSA 1 minute 03.
Mike 0 Juliet Sierra Alpha G4 and RC. That will be appreciated, Alan. I look forward to getting an email if you can. I will provide a flushed log sheet with some newsy stuff as required. It would be good if the net can stay as continuous as it can be. I think we have only stopped for significant bank holidays or deaths of monarchs. So it usually takes quite a bit to knock us off air, whereas I did note with Graham, I think, the other week that another worldwide net had to announce they couldn't run because they couldn't find a net controller, which seemed rather bad when you think about the pool they were fishing in. Anyway, look forward to the email. It would be appreciated if you could keep the flag flying. Right, the final one with finals is Philip, Mike India 0, Mike Sierra Oscar, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC MI0 MSO. Yeah, interesting there to hear about the AGM. I thought it was the end of the month. Cardiff's not a great airport to fly into from Northern Ireland, but you never know what could happen. It's easy to fly out of Dublin. It just takes a bit longer to get there. And looking at flights, currently, we might need an overnight stay on the Friday night. From memory, does the AGM start at 12 and possibly be over about 4 o'clock, Craig? Over?
Mike India 0, Mike Sierra Oscar, G4 and RC. No idea of a final running order of stuff yet. That's with the ZC for South Wales and Kathy and others. But normally I think doors open at 10 AM with some presentations and discussions before lunch. Then the formal AGM starts something like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Then an open forum, and we will be out by usually somewhere between 3 and 4 in the afternoon. Again, it depends on the venue and whether or not the room is required for a do in the evening. Because it is a Saturday, and no doubt there will be a rugby, football, or darts or something thing on. So we have been hoofed out of venues in the past because they've had another party booked for the evening. But more details will come when the calling note goes out. My clash, as you will be aware of, is that we probably got the Spectrum Forum that day as well. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to be sat in the back of a car doing a Spectrum Forum while I'm actually in South Wales, tantalisingly close to the AGM. Hopefully that answers it, Philip. Mike India 0, Mike Sierra Oscar, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC MI0 MSO. Yeah, sort of answers a bit of it. It's been a few years since I've been at a RAYNET AGM. I might just turn up this year. I wouldn't panic about the Spectrum Forum. Well, you need to worry about it more than I do. I'll be a nice wee weekend away in South Wales. We'll see. We'll see what comes up. We'll see what comes up. I'll look forward to the call notice coming out. But, that'll be 2 trips away in October. Convention in a couple of weeks and then that at the end of October. It's manageable. But never mind, we'll see what happens. Okay, I'll not hold it, Greg. I'll let you get closed up. Thank you for the mess this week. 7-3.
Mike India 0, Mike Sierra Oscar, G4 and RC. Yeah, I equally feel I need to keep the flag flying at the RSGB Spectrum Forum since I'm the RAYNET rep, so I'll just have to try and be in 2 places at once. Okay, thanks, Philip, for tying the ribbons with a good question at the end there. Hopefully I've not dropped anybody in it saying when I think the paperwork will be out, but we do have a bit of email chatter to have on com through the very early part of this week, falling out from the fees survey, which will be kind of key to releasing the paperwork as well. Okay, so I will thank everybody for taking time out of their schedules to participate this afternoon and bring the net to a close. Be careful and have a good week. And until next Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time, when hopefully we will have a alternative net controller, I will close the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net on Pheonix and Brandmeister 23531 and RAYNET-UK 5023531 and return the talk groups to being an open net rather than a directed net. 7-3s, this is Golf 4 November Romeo Charlie now closing and reverting to my normal call sign of Golf 0 L2 Uniform Bravo. Bye bye.